All right, so get this. We're diving into the Trojan War,
Mm-hmm.
but not the version you're probably thinking of.
Right.
Forget Homer's epic poems.
Yeah.
We're going old school,
Uh-huh.
like really old school,
Okay.
with a source that claims to be a first-hand account from a Trojan named Dares.
It's fascinating because if this guy, Dares, actually existed, his history of the fall of Troy
Yeah.
would completely change how we view the war.
Right.
Imagine a perspective from someone who actually lived through the siege.
Exactly.
Wow.
So instead of just rehashing the story,
Right.
let's see if Dares can answer a big question.
Okay.
Was the Trojan War inevitable?
Mm-hmm.
Like a clash of civilizations just destined to happen?
Right. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
was it all sparked by a bunch of bad decisions
Mhm.
and personal vendettas?
That's a great question to keep in mind as we go through Dare's account.
Okay.
And he doesn't waste any time getting to the drama.
Yeah.
His story actually starts way before the war with Jason and the Argonauts
Yeah.
stopping by Troy on their quest for the Golden Fleece.
Okay, so we're talking
Yeah.
pre-Helen,
Mm-hmm.
pre-Trojan horse, even pre-Priam.
Wow.
This is deep backstory stuff.
It is,
Yeah.
and it sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay.
See, Troy at this time was ruled by King Laomedon, Priam's father.
Right.
And let's just say he wasn't exactly known for his hospitality,
Okay.
especially when it came to Greeks.
Let me guess. He wasn't offering any complimentary ambrosia or anything?
Not quite. In
Not
fact,
fair.
he orders them to leave,
Uh-huh.
and not in a polite way either.
Yeah.
According to Dares, he throws some serious shade their way,
Wow.
which of course doesn't sit well with our friend Hercules.
Hercules, the original, you don't want to make him angry guy.
Right.
I can see where this is going.
You got it.
Yeah.
Hercules vows revenge, and years later he returns with a vengeance, sacking Troy,
Uh-huh.
killing Laomedon, and taking Hesione,
Right.
Priam's sister,
Wow.
as a prize.
Talk about holding a grudge. So this whole Trojan War mess
Mm.
could have been avoided
Yeah.
if Laomedon had just been, like, a bit nicer to some Greek tourists.
It does make you wonder, and you know what else is interesting?
Yeah.
Dares really highlights the role of personal grudges
Right.
throughout his whole account.
Okay.
It's not just about nations clashing, but individuals driven by revenge
Oh, okay.
and a thirst for payback.
So Laomedon messes up big time,
Yeah.
sets off this chain of events.
Mm-hmm.
But then Priam inherits the throne.
Right.
And he actually tries to make things right, doesn't he?
He does.
Okay.
He rebuilds Troy, fortifies the city,
Uh-huh.
but also sends an envoy, Antenor, to the Greeks
Right.
to try to negotiate Hesione's return.
Oh, okay.
It shows he wasn't initially eager for war. He wanted to resolve things peacefully, but as you might imagine, things don't go as planned.
Yeah, because on the Greek side, you've got guys like Telamon who's holding Hesione captive,
Exactly.
and he's not exactly known for being a pushover.
Exactly. Antenor goes to all the big players in Greece.
Right.
Peleus, Telamon, Castor, and Pollux.
Yeah.
Even wise old Nestor.
Mm.
And they all refuse to give Hesione back.
Right.
They blame Laomedon for the initial conflict
Uh-huh.
and basically tell Antenor to get lost.
So back to Troy goes Antenor
Mm-hmm.
with his tail between his legs.
Right.
And basically tells Priam, well, looks like we're going to war.
Pretty much. And that's when things start heating up in Troy itself.
Okay.
Priam gathers his sons.
Yeah.
Hector, Paris, Dephobus, Helenus, Troilus,
Wow.
to figure out what to do.
Ah, the Trojan War's royal family drama. I bet that was a fun meeting.
You can imagine. Dares focuses on the debate
Yeah.
between Hector,
Right.
who's cautious about war, and Paris, who's all fired up,
Yeah.
bragging about how Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in Greece.
That's where the judgment of Paris comes in, right?
Right.
He picks Aphrodite over Hera and Athena,
Mm-hmm.
and she promises him Helen,
Right.
the wife of Menelaus.
You got it. And just to make things more complicated,
Yeah.
Helenus, Priam's prophetic son,
Right.
foresees Troy's destruction if Paris brings back a Greek wife.
You talk about foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But like any good drama, those warnings are ignored.
Right.
Even Cassandra's prophecies get dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Priam sides with Paris, and boom, the decision for war is made.
It's interesting how Dares really emphasizes that human element of choice,
Yeah.
showing how these individual decisions fueled by ambition and
Yeah.
desire
Right.
can lead to catastrophic consequences.
All right, so the stage is set.
Mm-hmm.
Paris, the prince, with a prophecy hanging over his head,
Right.
set sail for Greece to, shall we say, acquire the most beautiful woman in the world.
And here's where Dares throws in a detail that always makes me chuckle.
Okay.
On his way to Greece, Paris runs into Menelaus at sea.
What?
They size each other up, completely unaware of the role they're about to play in each other's lives.
Oh, that's some serious dramatic irony.
Right.
Imagine those two having a friendly chat over some salty sea snacks,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing they're about to become the world's most famous love triangle.
Right.
Wow.
It really highlights the strange twists of fate that shape history.
Okay, yeah.
And when Paris finally reaches Greece,
Hmm.
he learns that Helen is at a nearby temple.
Okay.
Now, here's where Dares portrays Paris in a way that's a bit different from Homer.
Okay.
He really emphasizes how aware Paris is of his own good looks,
Okay.
almost like he's using his charm as a weapon.
Ooh. So we're getting a more, like, cunning, manipulative Paris here.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
Dares suggests that Paris orchestrates this whole chance encounter with Helen,
Right.
knowing his charm will be hard to resist.
Uh-huh.
And of course, they fall for each other instantly.
But this isn't just a romantic elopement, right? Dares makes it clear that this is a calculated abduction.
Exactly. That night, Paris's men raid the temple,
Uh-huh.
taking Helen and other women captive,
Right.
even fighting off the townspeople who try to stop them.
Yeah.
This is a far cry from the more romantic portrayals of Helen willingly running away with Paris.
So Paris sails back to Troy with Helen, a bunch of stolen treasure,
Mm-hmm.
and a whole lot of trouble brewing.
I imagine Priam wasn't exactly thrilled when he saw what his son had brought home.
Well, according to Darius, Priam was actually delighted.
What?
He thought capturing Helen would force the Greeks to finally return Hesione,
Right.
but as we know, that was a major miscalculation.
Because Menelaus, once he got over the shock of having his wife abducted,
Right.
was ready to raise an army.
And we're not talking a small local militia.
Right.
We're talking the entire might of Greece,
Yeah.
led by Agamemnon,
Mm-hmm.
and a who's who of legendary heroes.
It's almost like the Greeks were just waiting for an excuse to attack Troy.
Right.
And when they finally landed on Trojan shores,
Uh-huh.
after consulting the Delphic oracle
Right.
and making the appropriate sacrifices,
Right. Yeah.
you know, things were about to get real.
Okay, so the first battle is about to go down.
Mhm.
Who scores the first point in this epic showdown?
Well, initially it seems like the Trojans might have the upper hand.
Okay.
Pertisilus, the first Greek to step foot on Trojan soil, is immediately killed by Hector.
Right.
But then Achilles, the ultimate Greek warrior, enters the fray and changes everything.
Hold on. I'm imagining Brad Pitt in that chariot,
Right.
hair flowing in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Did Dares provide any, like, juicy details about how these early battles played out?
He does.
Yeah.
And it's not all epic duels and heroic speeches. He focuses on the brutal reality of war, the chaos, the bloodshed,
Yeah.
and the fear that gripped both sides.
So we're getting a more, like, grounded,
He
gritty
swings that way.
version of the Trojan War here.
And within this whirlwind of battles,
Yeah.
Dares introduces a fascinating subplot.
Okay.
The rivalry between Agamemnon, the Greek leader, and Palamedes, a brilliant but ambitious strategist.
Oh, this is getting juicy.
Right.
Internal conflict within the Greek ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like some Game of Thrones level intrigue.
It does add a layer of complexity to the story.
Yeah.
Dares shows that even while facing a common enemy,
Mm-hmm.
personal ambition and power struggles can simmer beneath the surface.
So we've got a war brewing outside the walls of Troy,
Mm-hmm.
and a power struggle brewing within the Greek camp itself.
Right.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And as the war drags on,
Mm-hmm.
things are about to take a tragic turn,
Okay.
especially for Hector.
Uh-oh. The noble Trojan prince.
I'm sensing a bad omen here.
Mm-hmm.
What does Dares have in store for poor Hector?
Well, ignoring Andromache's dream warning,
Oh, no.
Hector,
Yeah.
driven by honor and duty,
Mm-hmm.
enters the battle and faces his destiny. Dare's account of Hector's death is surprisingly moving.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the brutality of the fight, but he also focuses on the emotional impact, especially on Andromache
Right.
and Priam.
Yeah, the way he describes Andromache's grief and Priam's elaborate funeral for Hector
Mm.
really humanizes these characters.
Well-
Like, it's a reminder that these aren't just names in a history book. They're
Yeah.
people who loved and lost.
Absolutely. And Hector's death isn't just a personal tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a turning point in the war.
Yeah.
The Trojans have lost their greatest champion,
Mm-hmm.
and the Greeks, well, they're
Yeah.
dealing with their own internal power struggles.
Right, that whole Agamemnon versus Palamedes thing.
Right. So what happens there? Does Agamemnon finally crack under the pressure?
He does.
Okay.
Worn down by Palamedes' constant challenges
Mm-hmm.
and the war's toll,
Right.
Agamemnon steps down as leader.
Wow.
And the Greeks actually choose Palamedes as their new commander.
Wow, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
So they ditched the king's brother for the brilliant strategist. Did it pay off?
For a while it did.
Right.
Palamedes proves to be a capable leader,
Mm-hmm.
fortifying the Greek camp
Ah.
and devising effective strategies.
Okay.
But remember that theme of personal grudges we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, it comes back to bite the Greeks in a big way.
I'm guessing Paris decides to take matters into his own hands again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Driven by jealousy,
Uh-huh.
revenge,
Yeah.
or maybe just a desire to prove himself,
Right.
Paris kills Palamedes with an arrow,
Oh, boy.
plunging the Greeks back into chaos
Mm-hmm.
and giving the Trojans a much-needed victory.
It's like this war is a never-ending cycle of revenge. Like, one bad decision leads to another,
Right.
and the body count just keeps rising.
It really does make you question whether any of this was truly inevitable, or if it was all just a series of avoidable tragedies.
Yeah.
And just when the Trojans are starting to feel hopeful,
Wow.
their luck takes another turn.
Wait, things are looking up for the Trojans. They finally got rid of that pesky Palamedes,
Mm-hmm.
and now something bad happens to them.
Well, it all comes down to Achilles.
Okay.
Remember how he was the one who turned the tide of the first battle?
Yes.
Well, it turns out
Yeah.
even the mighty Achilles has a weakness,
Okay.
and it's not his heel.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly bring down the greatest warrior in Greece?
Love.
Oh, wow.
Dares completely departs from Homer here,
Yeah.
focusing on Achilles' passionate love for Polysena, Hector's sister.
Whoa. A forbidden romance amidst all this bloodshed.
Right.
Talk about a Shakespearean twist.
It is a bit dramatic, but it also adds a layer of human complexity to Achilles,
Right.
showing that even the most fearsome warriors are capable of deep emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and this love completely consumes him.
Okay.
He withdraws from battle, even making a secret deal with Hecuba
Oh, wow.
to end the war
Okay.
in exchange for Polysena's hand in marriage.
So the Greeks are losing their best fighter
Mm-hmm.
because he's fallen head over heels.
Yeah.
I bet his fellow warriors weren't too happy about that.
They were desperate.
Right.
They convinced Achilles to at least send his Myrmidons into battle,
Okay.
but they are no match for the Trojans,
Mm-hmm.
especially Troilus, who has become Troy's new champion after Hector's death.
So we've got the Greeks falling apart,
Mm-hmm.
the Trojans rallying behind a new hero. It sounds like the tide is turning yet again.
It is.
Yeah.
But remember, Hecuba, fueled by grief over losing two of her sons,
Right.
she's not about to let Achilles get away with this,
Oh, no.
luring him to a temple under the pretense of peace talks.
Right. She sets a trap. And I'm guessing Paris, eager to avenge his brother
Yeah.
and maybe reclaim some glory,
Mm-hmm.
is all too happy to play the role of executioner.
You know,
Yeah.
ignoring Helenus' pleas to spare Achilles
Wow.
because of his prophetic gifts,
Mm-hmm.
Paris ambushes and kills him.
Sealing Troy's fate,
Mm-hmm.
but also setting in motion the city's ultimate destruction.
Right.
Okay, so Achilles, the seemingly invincible warrior,
Mm-hmm.
is taken down by love
Right.
and a mother's revenge.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in a war, supposedly orchestrated by the gods,
Mm-hmm.
human choices
Right.
and passions ultimately decide the outcome.
That's a really insightful point.
Yeah.
And with Achilles gone, the
Right.
Greeks are reeling,
Uh-huh.
but the war isn't over yet.
Right.
There's still one last act to play out,
Mhm.
one filled with betrayal,
Uh-oh.
shocking twists,
Okay.
and a brutal ending.
So Achilles is gone.
Mhm.
The Greeks are probably feeling pretty lost without their star player.
Right.
They think this is the moment for the Trojans, right?
Yeah.
To push their advantage
Mm.
and drive those invaders back into the sea.
You would think so. But there's another twist coming.
Yeah.
And this one really gets to the heart of that question we posed at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Was this war inevitable?
Okay, I'm all ears. What happens that makes us question the whole nature of this conflict?
Well, remember those two Trojan nobles we mentioned earlier, Antenor and Aeneas?
Yeah, the voices of reason in a city consumed by war fever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, with Troy seemingly on the verge of victory,
Mm-hmm.
they continue to advocate for peace,
Okay.
even suggesting they should consider returning Helen to the Greeks.
Hold on. They wanted to just give Helen back.
Yeah.
After all this fighting, all the lives lost.
I know.
That's a pretty radical stance, especially considering how obsessed everyone seems to be with this one woman.
It is, and it doesn't go over well with Priam,
Yeah.
consumed by grief
Uh-huh.
and paranoia after
Yeah.
losing Hector,
Yeah.
Troilus.
Mm-hmm.
He accuses Antenor and Aeneas of treason.
Wow, talk about shooting the messenger. The guy's own sons are dead.
I know.
His city's been under siege for years.
Right.
And he's turning against the people who are trying to find a peaceful solution.
It seems like Priam, at this point, is
Yeah.
so fixated on victory,
Right.
on revenge,
Right.
that he's lost sight of everything else. He's become a prisoner of his own anger and grief.
So what happens to Antenor and Aeneas?
Right.
Do they just accept their fate?
Yeah.
Or do they fight back against this insane accusation?
They choose a different path, one that changes the course of history,
Okay.
fearing for their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the madness consuming Troy from within.
Right.
They make a fateful decision.
I'm on the edge of my seat here. What do?
They betray Troy
Oh,
in the dead of night. Uh-huh.
they open the gates of the city, allowing the Greek army to pour in.
Whoa, hold on. This isn't how the story's supposed to go. Where's the Trojan horse? The clever trickery. This is just straight up betrayal.
It is, and it makes you think about the whole nature of the Trojan War.
Yeah.
If these two key figures within Troy hadn't switched sides,
Right.
if Priam hadn't alienated them with his paranoia,
Mm-hmm.
could the city have held out?
It's like that saying, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Right.
Troy wasn't just defeated by the Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was defeated by its own internal conflicts.
Right.
Its own inability to find unity
Yeah.
in the face of a common enemy.
That's a powerful point.
Right.
And this betrayal leads to a scene of utter chaos
Right.
and devastation.
Yeah.
Dare doesn't hold back in describing the horrors of the sack of Troy.
Yeah.
The city is overrun,
Huh.
Priam is killed,
Mm-hmm.
and the surviving Trojans are taken captive. It's a brutal ending, one that really highlights the human cost of this conflict. We've talked about the tragic deaths of heroes like Hector and Achilles,
Mm-hmm.
but what about all the ordinary people caught in the crossfire?
Yeah.
The women,
Right.
the children,
Mm-hmm.
the ones whose stories rarely get told.
Dares, to his credit,
Yeah.
does try to give voice to those often silenced perspectives.
Okay.
He focuses on the suffering of women like Andromache
Right.
and Hecuba,
Right.
who lose their husbands,
Right.
their sons,
Yeah.
their homes, their very way of life.
It's a reminder that war is never just about battles and conquests.
Right.
It's about the shattering of lives,
Mm-hmm.
the tearing apart of families,
Yeah.
the enduring trauma that lingers long after the fighting has ended.
And that's something that's often lost in those more epic,
Right.
romanticized versions of the Trojan War.
Right.
Dares, by focusing on the human element,
Mm-hmm.
the personal betrayals, the agonizing choices people had to make,
Yeah.
forces us to confront the true cost of this conflict.
So Troy falls,
Mm-hmm.
not with a bang, but with a whimper, betrayed from within by its own people. It's a far cry from the heroic last stand we might expect.
It is a less glorious ending,
Right.
but perhaps a more realistic one.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with a lingering question.
Okay.
Remember, Dares claims to have written this account from a first-hand perspective.
Yeah, he's not just some poet retelling myths. He's supposedly a Trojan
Right.
who witnessed all of this. So
Yeah.
where was he during the sack of Troy?
Right.
Did he fight alongside his fellow Trojans,
Mm-hmm.
or did he side with Antenor and Aeneas?
Well, that's the most intriguing part of Dare's account.
Okay.
He tells us that he chose to stay in Troy
Mm-hmm.
with Antenor's faction.
Okay.
He doesn't go into detail about why.
Mm-hmm.
But It suggests he saw some hope, some possibility for a new beginning, even amidst the ruins of his city.
It's an ambiguous ending,
Right.
one that leaves us with more questions than answers.
Right.
What happened to Dares after the war?
Mm.
Did he help rebuild Troy under Greek rule? Did he ever regret his decision to side with those who betrayed their city?
We may never know for sure, but that's the beauty of history, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's not just about finding definitive answers.
Right.
It's about exploring the mysteries,
Yeah.
the unanswered questions,
Mhm.
the tantalizing possibilities.
Dares is inviting us to continue the investigation,
Mm.
to dig deeper, to imagine what life might have been like for those who survived the fall of Troy.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just a retelling of a familiar story.
Right.
It's a challenge to our assumptions, a reminder that history is rarely black and white,
Hmm.
and that there are always multiple perspectives, multiple truths waiting to be uncovered.
I don't know about you, but I'm definitely feeling inspired to learn more. I'm going to track down a full translation of Dare Phrygius' text and see what other secrets it holds.
I encourage you to do the same.
Yeah.
And as you read, keep in mind the questions we've explored today. Was the Trojan War inevitable? What role did personal grudges and betrayals play in its outcome?
Mm.
And how does Dare's account, with its focus on the human element, change our understanding of this epic conflict?
It's been an incredible journey filled with twists and turns and moments of unexpected insight. And hopefully it's sparked a curiosity in you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep uncovering those hidden stories that make history so captivating.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Trojan War, according to Dare Phrygius. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of history's untold stories.